All right, good afternoon, traders. Today is May 30th, 2025. I think we got one more day left of this month. It's on a Saturday. Yep. Okay, then we start off the new week. Next week on the 2nd, new month, June. All right. So today is May 30th, 2025. Hey, my name is John Carignan. I'm the lead instructor here at the BYOB Trading Room. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you to all my members that are subscribers. I hope y'all made some money today on those puts. All right, I called it out in the room, put it in there. All right, so there's SPY puts. We made some money on those today. Okay, so let's go take a look. I made a couple K today. All right, let's take a look and see what I did. All right. Well, we'll run through the market, then we'll review what I did. All right. All right. So first of all, let's talk about, hey, my good friend Doug Campbell, all right, is having a 3-ace trap class. I think that's on the 6th or the 4th of June. All right. I'll have the date in my description, but that's coming up soon. All right. So let me make sure I got that right. Okay, on that, just make sure. Want to make sure I got it right. It is June 4th at 2:30 on a Wednesday. All right, so everybody out there in podcast land, digital land, all right, he's got a 3-ace trap class. All right, look at what he's going to cover. He's going to do in-depth coverage, like for several hours. He's going to be there to help you improve your trading, okay? Okay, he's going to show you how to easily find 3-ace traps, how to filter the good from the bad, how to build a 3-ace trap trading plan. He's going to talk to you about entries, goals, and stops, all right? He's going to answer a lot of questions, and it's all going to be recorded so you can bring it to your library, all right? And it's only 20 students going to be max, all right? So get registered for that. That's $350. For non-members. For members, I think there is a reduced rate. I'm not sure what it is. So I'm not even going to punch out a number there. All right. So 3-ace trap, all right, class with Doug Campbell. He's great with options. All right. Really good with options. I mean, he knows how to do a spread. He knows debit spread, call spread, whatever it is. All right. He knows spreads. He knows options very well. Okay, so this is Wednesday, June 4th at 2:30 in the afternoon. All right, so get your morning done and go to class with Doug Campbell on Wednesday. All right, that's coming up. Again, the link will be in my description for that. Okay, the next one is, all right, me. This is me, BYOB Trading Room, right? We're going to have an open house on June 2nd. That's Monday when we come back from this 2-day weekend. Just a 2-day weekend this time. Okay? I start at 8 o'clock in the morning. I do a lot of talking. I do a lot of training. I do a lot of teaching at 8 o'clock. And then when the market opens, I do a lot of trading. I don't do a lot of talking then. Okay? So be there at 8 o'clock. All right? And it's free. All right? It's free to attend. All you got to do is register. All right. Again, the registration will be in the description. All right. So there it is, free. You get a peek. You get a peek at the BYOB Trading Room. You can be inside a live trading room. We do day trading here. We mostly trade the indexes, mainly SPY. All right. We do pretty good at it. We make some money. All right. A lot of guys made some daily goals today. All right. So let's talk about that. That's open house Monday. Okay, at 8 o'clock in the morning, all right? So you got to set your alarm. Kind of got to make a plan for it now, okay? You get to drinking, enjoying the weekend. You might forget on Monday that 8 o'clock, hey, there's an open house in the BYOB Trading Room, all right? So think about it. Get that scheduled. Punch it in on the calendar. Put it in on the phone. Just remember that, all right? And again, the link will be in the description to get registered. Okay, you can't get in without a ticket. All right, so get registered. All right, let's talk about SPY. All right, right here. okay, on the 10-minute chart. Okay, got a 10-minute uptrend coming into the close. Okay, 10-minute uptrend coming into the close. 2 hour, all right, 2 hour chart. All right, the 3 is underneath the, well, it's crossing. All right, we got a bullish cross. See, the 3 is crossing over the 8 right now. We got a bullish cross on SPY on the 2 hour chart. Okay, so I'm just going to keep it as a downtrend. All right, and we'll see how they open up on Monday. 2 hour bullish cross there on SPY on the 2 hour chart. On the daily chart, still got an uptrend. Notice the 3 EMA is on top of the 8 EMA. Okay, we closed over the trap, over the 17. Lower high, lower low, but we closed over the trap, over the 17. Okay, a lot of hammers out in here. Got a hammer, another hammer, another hammer. Got another hammer over here. All right, got another little hammer there. A lot of hammers showing up right through here. I got to tell you, beware. I think June's going to be a good month for the hammers. All right, so let's take a look at daily chart. Let's back way out. Okay, you can see with all the hammers, we're up in quadrant 4. All right, that's bullish. We're up over the uptrend line. That's bullish. We're closing over the trap. That's bullish. We're closing over the 17. That's bullish. We're closing over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's the all-time high, the pink line. That's bullish. All right. Okay, and we're over the uptrend line. That's bullish. So everything lining up bullish. And we're moving up and we're holding the higher ground. That's bullish. All right, so daily chart is looking fantastic here on SPY. All right, there's SPY on the daily chart. That's bullish. All right, we're making higher lows. We're making higher highs. That's bullish. All right, take a look at the 2-day chart. Okay, 2-day chart still in a downtrend because, see this low? Well, we made a lower low. There's a low. We made a lower low. There's a low. Made a lower low. There's a low. We made a lower low. There's a low. We made a lower low. So there's like 5 lows there. We made lower lows. So we have to, in order to negate this downtrend that we're in for making lower lows, we have to take out a high that pokes over the 17. Well, this is the first one. It's the all-time high right up there. Okay, so we still have yet to make the higher high. The good news is 2-day chart is in a downtrend, but let's face it, it's not moving down. All right, it's actually moving up. So there's 2-day chart. 3-day chart, same deal. Okay, we're in a downtrend. All right, but we're not moving down. We're moving up. All right, so huge pullback right there. Weekly chart, same deal. Okay, low, low. We made a lower low. All right, so same deal. We're in a downtrend, but we're moving up. Okay, we're not moving down anymore. All right, we've been moving up since, I don't know, let's look at this, about 1st of April right there. All right, on the monthly chart, what do we got here? Okay, there's a low. All right, we didn't take out any lows, so that's a higher low. All right, so we're still in an uptrend here on SPY. We didn't take out any lows below the 17. See, there is none. This is the first one you come to. Right over here. We didn't take one out. So uptrend is still on the monthly chart. We're still in an uptrend. All right, so there's SPY. On the game plan, let me just say the game plan worked today. Okay, the game plan worked. Okay. All right, let's open up the day right here. This is the open. See the pivot? The pivot was 589.85. And I said, above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. Okay, so here we are. We're below it. So I'm a bear. So I'm looking for 10-minute trends to the downside. We had one, stopped short here, pulled back to the pivot. All right. Then we started another one that ran all the way into 1 o'clock right here. All right. And big exhaustion candle. Got a little press. And then there's the 3-candle exclamation point right there. Okay. So puts worked out today. Okay. So what did I trade today? All right. I traded puts. Okay. So on some puts here, made about 23. some puts here, made about the 5,800. And on those calls right there, I just, on the uptrend after that, I squeaked out with those calls with 3,100 there. Okay, so there, that's my day. Not a bad day, about 30K. Okay, so that's my day. Okay, played the downtrend with the puts, played the uptrend with the calls. Okay, so there's SPY on the 5-minute chart. Okay, you can see price, all right here below 586.55 was the red erases green entry. If you weren't already in this 5-minute downtrend, 10-minute downtrend right here, okay, if you weren't already in it under VWAP, okay, you could have just got in right here, 586.55, and rode that right down in there to the next candle, and then got out. Okay, so there was the trade right there. So the game plan works. All right. Again, in the morning prep video, I mentioned, all right, that I mentioned the pivot. I said the pivot is 589.85 several times, and I said I'm a bull. All right, above the pivot, I'm a bull. Below the pivot, I'm a bear. Okay, so there it is. We were below the pivot, so I was a bear. Okay, on the downtrends. Okay, I can't be a fool. Okay, I can't be a bear when it's going up. All right, got to wait for it to turn over in order to ride it again to the downside. Okay, so there is the downtrends. All right, downtrends, I'm a bear. Okay, after it hits and bounces, can't be a bear. Got to wait for it to roll over and see what it wants to do, make the lower high. Of course, we never got the lower high. Okay, pulled all the way back to the pivot and even rose up over it. So we did the gap fill thing. All right. So first thing, we never got the gap fill. All right. So that showed us that the bears were strong and the bulls were weak. His gap fill was right there. All right. So that made us want to look for those bearish 10-minute downtrends, 3-minute downtrends, 5-minute downtrends, okay, to ride this down into this area here. All right. And then we had the bounce pullback all the way back, and we did the gap fill. Okay. The green erases red, never got it. Okay, never got green erases red. Never got up that high. All right. So game plan works. SPY game plan works. QQQ game plan works as well. All right. So QQQ did the same thing. Take a look at QQQ. And this was supposed to be this is supposed to be at 518.10. Somebody moved it. I don't know how it got moved. All right. So there's 518.10 right there. And you can see below the pivot, I'm a bear. All right, so you're looking for those downtrends. There's 518.10 is probably right about there. Okay, you can see price below 518.10. Okay, you got that ride all the way down into here. Okay, so under the pivot, I'm a bear. Over the pivot, I'm a bull. Okay, gotta have a downtrend. Okay. You just can't be a bear because it's pulling and moving up, okay? Got to have a downtrend. Okay, this is when you want to be a bear, is when you see the 2-minute, the 3-minute, the 5-minute, the 10-minute, the 15-minute, 30-minute downtrends under the pivot, okay? Those are the ones you want to participate in. Over the pivot, you're looking for the uptrends, okay? If price is moving down but we're over the pivot, you don't want to touch that. Just let it drop and show you where the bottom is, okay? When it starts to move up again, then you trade that to the upside, okay? You got to be smart about it. You can't just be playing everything as a downtrend, okay? You got to see price move down in order to jump in it on a downtrend, okay? You just can't sell it even though it's coming up, all right? So there's price action. There's the pivot. Never got to the bullish entry over 523.55. Never happened, all right? But the bearish entry right here, right underneath 518.10 was an entry. We traded that to the downside. All right, there's QQQ. Let's look at this on the daily chart. Yeah, let's pull it up over here. Okay, just like SPY, lower high, lower low. Closing over the bullish trap, over the 17, over the uptrend line, over the all-time high anchored VWAP, over the midpoint up in quadrant 4. All of that is bullish. Okay, with a higher low and a higher high makes it an uptrend. So that's an uptrend all over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's bullish. QQQ. Price moves up, holds the higher ground. That's bullish. Okay? When you see price move up, give it up. All right? That's neutral. Okay? You see price move up and then give it up, that's neutral. But that's not happening here. See this? It's moving up and it's holding the higher ground up there. That is a bullish environment. Okay? 10-minute, 5-minute, 3-minute uptrends are more likely to succeed in a bullish environment. Okay? 10-minute, 3-minute, 5-minute downtrends are more likely to fail in a bullish environment. Okay? Just makes sense. All right, so there's QQQ. Let's take a look at IWM. Actually, let's hit FNGB. Try it again. FNGB. All right, FNGB got a lower high, lower low, closing over the trap, over the rising 17, over the all-time high anchored VWAP, over the uptrend line. All of that is bullish in the upper third. Also bullish, making higher lows and higher highs. That's an uptrend, all right, in a bullish environment. Prices moving up and holding the higher ground. That's bullish. All right, let's take a look at IWM. Price action is lower high, lower low, closing under a bearish trap, not so bullish. Over the 17, that is bullish. Over the uptrend line, that's bullish. Underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP, kind of neutral there. Okay, so we're getting some neutral, right? We're not in the upper third, we're not in the lower third, so that's neutral. Price action's in an uptrend, but we're just neutral. Not quite enough mustard, not quite enough spinach. All right, just neutral through here. We are moving up and holding the higher ground. Hopefully there will be another leg up higher, okay, where we go up again and hold the higher ground, okay? Right now, just haven't got the mustard or the spinach to get there yet. Okay, so we're neutral right through here, and we're in an uptrend. All right, so it's an uptrend, not as strong as the others, but it's an uptrend. All right, that's IWM. Probably a more healthy uptrend, if you ask me. All right, Diamond Dow. I have to zoom in because I can hardly see. All right, looking like higher low, higher high, closing over the trap, over the 17. That's bullish. Closing over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's bullish. Closing over the uptrend line. That's bullish. All right, closing over the downtrend line. That's bullish. Closing over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's bullish. Closing over the midpoint. Also bullish. All of that is bullish. We have a higher low and a higher high. That's an uptrend. We're closing. I'm going to give it to them. Closing in the upper third, so that's bullish up there. So there's Diamond Dow. Bullish and in an uptrend. All right. Take a look at our technicals. T21, 22. Look at this. Failed to make a lower low. That's bullish. Failed to make a higher high. Well, we did here, but not in regards to the day before. Okay. All right. So made a higher high at the end of the day, but not over yesterday's high. Okay, so we wound up testing the midpoint one more time. Okay, like we tested it yesterday. We tested it again today to make sure it's still there. Yes, it's still there. Okay, and then we went back up to the buy zone. All right, and then the bears threw us out. So we spent the day, for the most part, just wandering around the buyer's chop zone, testing the edges on the northern exposure and the southern exposure again. All right, so there's T21, 22. All right, T21, 23. I got to zoom in because I can barely see. All right, green, got a 4 martini lunch and then some more green right there. Okay, green, starting out, a little 4 martini lunch, and then more green right there. Up over, that's bullish. Okay, that's a newer high. That's a higher high than what we had yesterday, which was a higher high than what it had the day before, which was a higher high than what it had the day before that. Okay, so notice every day they're inching And yard by yard, inch by inch, they're scratching, all right, to get ahead, all right? Just like Al Pacino says, all right? T2123, all right? Again, green, 4 martini lunch, and then some more buying. Up over the rising 200 SMA, that's bullish, okay? Up over the daily downtrend line, that's bullish. And coming in closer, closing in on those 2 prior all-time highs, those 2 green lines there. Okay, we're making higher lows and higher highs, that's bullish. All right, so 15-minute chart is bullish. Look at the 3-bar chart. It's the next one. 3-bar chart. There's a high. We made higher highs. That's bullish. We're up over the 200 SMA. Also bullish. Price action over the daily downtrend line. That's bullish. All right. Price action moving up and holding the higher ground. Notice we're up and we're holding here. We're not going up and giving it up. All right. We're going up and we're holding the higher ground. That is a bullish environment. Okay. Things are looking good like that. Okay. So price action still looking good. We're up over the daily downtrend line and we're making higher highs. Beautiful on the 3-bar chart right there. Okay, now let's take a look at, what do we want to look at? Daily chart. Just peek at it for a minute. Okay, you can see on the daily chart, the first high we come to that pokes over the 17 is way up here. Okay, that's it right there. So we still haven't made a higher high on the daily chart. Okay, and you notice on the daily chart, we're under the 200 SMA. Okay, so I think a little consolidation, and then maybe we break through, maybe even spike this daily high. We'll see what happens. Okay, but I do like the fact that price is moving up and holding the higher ground. So on the daily chart, we're over the daily downtrend line. That's good. That's bullish. All right, but we still haven't made any higher highs yet. Okay, still haven't made any higher highs. And if they want to make a higher low and then make a higher high, I'm all for it. Okay, if they want to hang out and move over to the right and then take off to the upside, I'm all for that too. All right, so there's T2123 daily chart. Still in a downtrend on the daily chart. Okay, notice the 15 uptrend, 3-bar, still in an uptrend. You have to forgive me, I'm recovering here. So back to the 3-bar. Let's go look at a few sectors. All right, let's start off with the first sector is XLE. This is the energy sector. All right, not getting any love from the energy sector. Lower high, lower low, closing under the trap, under the 17. We're in an uptrend, but the problem is we're not moving up. Okay, we're in an uptrend. We're under downtrend line 1, downtrend line 2, the midpoint. We're under that. All of that is bearish. Okay, we're under the 1-year high or all-time high anchored VWAP right there. Okay, we're in the lower third. All of that is bearish. We are in an uptrend. Here's the problem. We're not moving up. Okay, that's the problem. We're not moving up on the XLE. Okay, so in an uptrend, but not moving up. Okay, let's take a look at USO. USO not helping us out. Definitely. All right, lower high, lower low, closing under the trap, under the 17. That's bearish. Closing under this 3-year high anchored VWAP. That's a post-COVID high right there. That's that COVID rally. Post-COVID rally right there, recovery. Okay, so there we go. We are under, okay, we're under the all-time, this 3-year high anchored VWAP. We are not making higher highs. Okay, we have not made a higher high, not in 12, 13 days. Here have we made a higher high. We had the chance, the opportunity to make a higher high right there for the last 13 days, but we haven't been able to get it done. Okay, so that's USO. In a downtrend, in the lower third, that's bearish. All right, notice you're under that 3-year high anchored VWAP. You're in the downtrend, you're underneath the trap, you're underneath the 17, you're in the lower third, you're underneath the midpoint. Nothing's working out for USO. No love for the USO. UNG. All right, UNG got a lower high, lower low, closing under a trap. That's bearish. Closing under the 17. That's bearish. Closing under the downtrend line. That's bearish. Closing under this 12-month high anchored VWAP. That's bearish. Closing under the midpoint. That's bearish. All right. Closing in the lower third. That's bearish. All right. Nothing going. No love for the UNG. All right. Other than a higher low. And that was a really low bar set. Okay. And they're in their downtrend. Lower highs, lower lows. They've yet to make a higher high. Okay? They haven't made a lower low in a while, but they're still stuck in the downtrend. So there's UNG. All right? That's bearish if you're confused. Okay? Let's take a look at GLD. All right. GLD. Got to zoom in. Lower high, lower low. Closing underneath. Bullish trap, that's neutral. Closing over the 17, that's bullish. Closing under, but knocking on the door of the all-time high anchored VWAP. Okay, that's neutral. All right. We're up here in quadrant 4, that's bullish. We're up over the uptrend line, that's bullish. We're moving up and we're holding the higher ground. All right, so that's bullish. Okay, we're in a downtrend, but here's the good news. We're not moving down. Okay, lower high, lower low, that makes a downtrend. Okay, but the problem is we're not moving down. It's not a bad problem to have, all right? Price action moving up and holding that higher ground. That's very good. There's GLD. Take a look at SLV. Price action, okay? Lower high, lower low, closing underneath the trap. That's neutral. Over the 17, that's bullish. Closing over the downtrend line. That's bullish. Closing over this is a 12-year high and a 6-month high anchored VWAP. Over that, that's bullish. Closing in the upper third, actually upper quadrant, that's bullish. We're making higher highs. Okay, so there's a high. We made a higher high. That's bullish, all right? So silver, bullish, all right? And just in case you're confused, that's still bullish up there. All right, so there's silver. All right, quadrant in an uptrend up there in quadrant 4. That's bullish. All right, let's take a look at, what do we want to look at? SMH. SMH. Okay, not in the upper third, so it's neutral. Lower high, lower low, closing under the trap, neutral. Closing over the 17, that's bullish. Closing over the all-time high anchored VWAP, that's bullish. Closing over the downtrend line, that's bullish. Closing over the midpoint, that's bullish, okay? But we're neutral. We're knocking on the door of the upper third. That would be bullish, all right? Just can't seem to keep it up there for long. Here's the good news. We're in an uptrend. Higher low, higher high. That's an uptrend, okay? We're moving up, and we're holding the higher ground. That's bullish, all right? So we're very bullish. We're knocking on the door to that upper third. It's looking good. SMH. Okay, take a look at XLK. This is big brother to the SMH. All right, a little meaner, a little leaner, a little stronger. Okay, XLK. Same candle, lower high, lower low. We closed in the bullish trap. All right, that's bullish. Closing over the 17 EMA, rising 17, that's bullish. Up here in quadrant 4, that's bullish. Over the uptrend line, that's bullish. Over the all-time high anchored VWAP, that's bullish. Over the midpoint, that's bullish. Up here in quadrant 4, that's bullish. Making higher lows and higher highs. That's an uptrend up here in quadrant 4. That's bullish. Okay, so that's bullish. XLF. Here's the financials. Nice candle today. Higher low, higher high, closing over the bullish trap. Over the 17. That's both bullish. Up here in quadrant 4. That's bullish. Look at price. Move up. Hold the higher ground. That's bullish. Up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's bullish. Got higher lows. Got higher highs. Uptrend bullish up here in quadrant 4. Everything looking good. Okay? Everything looking good. XLF. IYT. IYT. Lower high, lower low. Closing underneath a bearish trap. Okay? So that's bearish. Closing underneath. Closing on a rising 17. That's bullish. Okay, kind of neutral, really. underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's neutral because we're knocking on the door right there. Okay, we're not in the upper third, we're not in the lower third, so we're just neutral. We're over the uptrend line. That is bullish, but we're underneath that all-time high anchored VWAP. That's neutral. We spent some time up there, but I don't like the idea that we're now underneath it again. I do like the idea that we moved up and we're holding this upper quadrant up here. Okay, so if we move the quad lines out, okay, right here, notice if we just measure from this low to this high, we are in the upper third from this low to this high. Okay, so that is bullish right there. Okay, from that low to that high. So we're in an uptrend. We're moving up and we're holding the higher ground. All right, just from the bigger perspective, right here. Okay, just not up here in the upper quadrant yet. Okay, and all-time high. Let's put one of those on there. Let's put that right there. All right, you can see we're underneath that all-time high anchored VWAP. All right, people, that's it for me. All right, everybody have a beautiful weekend. Okay, remember, tell all your friends and family. Open house in the BYOB Trading Room. Thanks, Alan. All right, on Monday, 8 o'clock. All right, be there, be square. It's going to be good. All right, Monday's looking good. See all those hammers on that 10-minute uptrend? That's a lot of hammers on that 10-minute uptrend into the close. Let's count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hammers in that 10-minute uptrend into the close. June is looking good. All right, just saying. June be looking good. All right, that's a lot of hammers in that 10-minute uptrend. Never seen that many hammers before. All right, traders, have a beautiful weekend. Thanks for hanging out with me this week. All right, let's do it again next week. All right, we'll see y'all on Monday at 8 o'clock. Thank you.